Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Neuvillette and his current performance. A lot of people have said a lot of different things. I have read people in CN saying things like he has completely revolutionized what DPSs are capable of. He's like the first of many power creep units to come, and there are people who are saying, well, doesn't really matter because Genshin has no endgame. You know, it seems like people just say this one thing as an excuse for everything that Hoyoverse does. One day Hoyoverse can delete all the characters you rolled for, and they'll still say, well, it doesn't matter because there's no endgame anyway, so it didn't really seem like you needed those characters to begin with. To be honest, I think a response like that really misses the point of even having the discussion in the first place. For example, right now talking about Neuvillette and how strong he is comparative to old characters such as, let's say, Hu Tao, Zhao, or maybe even 2.0 carries such as Ito. The biggest concern most people have is that up until now, Genshin has done relatively well when it comes to balancing their characters. There has been close to no power creep. In fact, most people are saying there's reverse power creep for the majority of the game. But now we look at Neuvillette. Don't get me wrong, if you're thinking of playing Neuvillette as a free-to-play player at C0, right, free-to-play weapon, he's probably not going to feel as impactful. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to play him at C1, R1. I'm just saying that if you want to get the full picture of what I'm trying to say, it'd be best if you take a look or reference a C1, R1 Neuvillette comparative to older characters. This dude is not complete yet. I keep having to remind people that Neuvillette is probably one of the best carries of Fontaine, which means his most ideal pairing is going to be with Furina or the Hydro Archon, and that character is not even out yet. So whatever demonstration you see right now, just know that this man is lacking a core partner in crime when it comes to his upper ceiling. So if any of you are thinking, wow, Neuvillette is so strong, he is outperforming most of my carries, and I'll be honest, he at C1 R1 is outperforming a lot of C6 old DPS characters. Now, not all of them, I can guarantee you that, but a large number of them. What do we have to say to that? Are we going to also say, well, just because there's no endgame, Hoyoverse can just introduce power creep and trivialize people's investments into characters? Well, like people have been like, oh my god, I pulled for this character, I saved a whole year to get its C6, and here comes another character who C6 completely trivializes the one I got. I know people are going to say, but Wallensteins, I thought we played this game for fun. We pulled for characters who you enjoy, not for power and whatever. Yeah, you're right, but nobody wants to feel like they missed out on an investment. So at the end of the day, making characters that just smash previous characters out of the water is like a desperate FOMO tactic, a tactic that Hoyoverse has never had to resort to using until now. I mean, really, look at the sales, look at the revenue of Hoyoverse for the past year when it comes to Genshin Impact. Now, yes, making dozens of millions per banner is still possible, but if you really compare Genshin Impact and their revenue, it has been on the decline. And who can you blame? Really, for starters, they haven't released a single 5-star limited female character for a whole year. Can you really blame others for your lack of revenue? So on top of that, they decided to rerun some of the worst characters at the end of the 3.0 patches. They chose not to release an OP character like they've always done with Kazuha Yelan. So their sales don't look good at all. Not good for the past year, not good for the past month. So can you really blame Hoyoverse for getting a little antsy and getting a little impatient when it comes to scaling the characters? Now you can also say, well, Walrus, what if they unpurposely chose not to release an OP character at the end of Sumeru because they knew they're going to release some pretty powerful ones at the start of Fontaine? And I will say, yeah, you're right. But do remember, to make sure Neuvillette actually feels comfortable to play, he is similar to Hu Tao. He's a C1 R1 unit, meaning that if you want to invest C1 and R1 for Neuvillette, he is very much a different character, both damage-wise as well as player experience. On top of that, do you guys think Furina is going to feel perfectly fine at C0 at the rate Hoyoverse is going with the amount of money they've been bleeding? They're going to incentivize incentivize Furina's C2 even more? I'm gonna let you guys think about that. You guys are bright people. You don't need me to point out everything. What I want to let you guys really know is that currently in CN, Genshin has been dethroned and it's been slipping pretty heavily. Most CN players have lost interest. Now, not to say the game is dead in CN, but it certainly is not anywhere close to where it used to be. When we talk about sales, we have to be very wary of the products we're selling. What is Hoyoverse selling? They're selling husbandos at this point. Very powerful husbandos, and also powerful husbandos with slight kinks, if we're going to talk about characters such as Linny. We all know when it comes to product and their target demographic, who these characters are targeted towards. And it's not to say Hoyoverse don't have the data. They're like, oh my goodness, we're just taking shots in the dark. Of course they have the data. Everything is orchestrated as how their marketing teams oriented the direction of the game. Now, am I fear-mongering? Am I gonna say, oh, power creep is here, get ready for super powerful characters day after day, week after week? I am not, okay? I'm simply pointing out a fact, which is Hoyoverse has been tuning characters in Fontaine to be stronger than their previous regional iterations. When I say regional iterations, I mean every single region has their main carries, every single region has their Archon, and ever since Inazuma, Hoyoverse has found a formula when it comes to region releases. So it's no surprise right now that Fontaine is once again trying to shape up to bring out their local specialty, which is what? So let's look at Inazuma. Inazuma introduced the C2 Archon being Raiden Shogun, and it proved that C2 being an Archon's most ideal investment was something that people were willing to bend over backwards for, meaning they were able to open their wallets and swipe, making Hoyoverse filthy rich whenever an Archon releases. So they applied that to Sumeru. And what did Sumeru bring? Sumeru took the concept of regional carries and elevated them. It once again showed that if you were able to design powerful hyper carries, which also revolved around the nation's unique playstyle, you're also able to cash out big time and also bank on people to skip the characters in their first run and then pull for their reruns, ultimately securing Hoyoverse a huge bag when it comes to rerun value. Combining both of these, now entering Fontaine, what Hoyoverse is again doing is introducing new specialties. They're scaling up the strength of the characters. They're finding that going back to the old school C1 R1 is going to be making them good money. On top of that, who are you going to play your Hydro Archon with if you're not going to invest into other super strong Fontaine carries? Remember, Nahida, while she can work with characters that are outside of Sumeru, she mostly, really would prefer to work with Sumerian units. That's what she was designed for. And the same thing is going to happen to Furina. So if you're going to skip the current rosters of Fontaine characters, just know that it is very likely you're going to come back and pull for their rerun, which is what Hoyoverse realized worked very well for them in Sumeru. Now, of course, it's up to you which carry you want to choose. It might not even be the ones that are currently released. You might be interested in units that are going to be coming out after Furina, which is completely fine. But for a company like Hoyoverse who doesn't bombard you with skins, they're actually missing out on a ton of potential revenue. So you can't really even blame them if they want to start power creeping some of their characters. Now, I have a lot of respect for Hoyoverse when it comes to keeping their units in a gacha game so well balanced for 3 years now. And even if Neuvillette ends up being the most busted ass broken character and puts all previous DPS to shame, I think given enough time, most free-to-plays will be able to capitalize on his strength. Now, of course, by then, something new and exciting would have came out as well, so the cycle continues yet again. However, please share your thoughts on how you think Neuvillette has performed, as well as how much better do you think he's going to be when Furina comes out, and do you think this is fair for older players who have invested into a ton of old carries? Now, when I say fair, I want to leave it to you guys to decide what the parameters are, because some people would say it's fair because there's no endgame, right? Like the same excuse, oh, there's no endgame, so it's fair. But there will also be people who thinks that it's unfair because so many DPS DPS characters gets released in a state that leaves much to be desired, yet Hoyoverse then comes around and slaps someone like Neuvillette at C1R1, is already smashing some C6 limited 5-star DPS out of the water. I'm not gonna name names, but you know who they are. Anyways, this has been Walrus. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to reading your comments down below. Until next time, urge you to stay safe. Peace, bye bye.